So this is the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and this is the iPhone 12 Pro Max, launched in 2020. And now with the all new 16 Pro Max, we're going to see how it compares in the speed test to the 12 Pro Max. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Let's begin the speed test with a boot up in 3, 2, go, and see which one can get there first. Now, the iPhone 12 Pro Max launched in 2020. It had the Apple A14 Bionic chipset, 6 gigabytes of RAM, which was up over the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And now we go to 8 gigabytes of RAM on the 15 Pro Max, which was carried over here to the iPhone 16 Pro Max, which has an Apple A18 Pro chip. And just like some of my other comparisons, for some reason, the older iPhones are seemingly booting up a little bit faster right now. But the 12 Pro Max has smaller cameras than the iPhone 16 Pro Max, a slightly smaller display. But I thought one thing was interesting. The iPhone 16 Pro Max, even though it's bigger, only weighs 1 gram more than the iPhone 12 Pro Max, 228 grams, 227 grams on the right. Now, when it comes to the biometrics, you can just raise to wake these to get on right in. And you'll see right here that the phone unlocks very well. And for a long time, Face ID has been pretty good on these angles. Even when I look at it on weird angles, it seems to still recognize my face. Although with the camera capture button, I would have liked to seen Touch ID in there as another alternative option for unlocking, but it wasn't available. Now, the same thing is true here, a very accurate and responsive Face ID. This does have that older notch though. That's where it's housed in this phone, but at the same time, it does respond and react very well. So a very nice unlocking experience here as well. Although you do have stainless steel edges here and no capture button right there, so that's a difference. This phone still tends to unlock very quickly here in 2024. Now, both of these phones right here do have Apple's latest iOS 18 official version, and from this angle, you could actually see the substantial differences in bezels and a dynamic island and how much different that looks than this older notch. But the bezels are far thicker here on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. That doesn't make it an unusable phone. It's still a great phone. It's just that this one is a little bit wider, a little bit bigger, and definitely looks refined and newer. Okay, and before we go any further, I do want to go ahead and take a look at the general software performance. Now, we do have 60 hertz on the right, and it's actually not too noticeable if you don't compare it to a 120 hertz. However, it still definitely has been far smoother to upgrade to the ProMotion display. That happened right after the 12 Pro Max and the iPhone 13 Pro Max. But generally, it just it operates like an iPhone 16 Plus or a 15 Plus here on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So it's still not really a problem. It's just the newer ones are definitely much smoother. Hey guys, so we've arrived at the app portion of this video where we'll launch some applications. We'll start with the basic row up here. And you'll see, besides a little bit of a slower animation, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, definitely about the same there. And clock a little quicker on the left. You'll see all these basic apps tend to run well, even on some of the oldest iPhones available. But I tend to look at these basic row just for animations. We'll go over to weather, and that was a little faster to load the content on the left. So if I scroll again, you'll see a little bit of a difference in scrolling because of 60 hertz versus 120 hertz, but it's not substantial for the average user. It is going to be noticeable for somebody who is into technology. Let's go over here to following. We'll go to the iPhone articles, and you'll see you're not going to be able to read the news any faster on a newer phone, that's for sure. But if you do go ahead and take a look here, you will find yourself having more width here on the display, so it might be a little bit even more enjoyable for people who want a slightly larger panel. Let's go over here to App Store, and you'll see App Store launches first on the left. Games, first on the left. Let's open this Roblox, and that's first on the left. There's the content pulling up. And you can see the difference do become a little bit more, this one's a little bit off, they do become a little bit more substantial as you go into some of these content-based apps. The differences become more substantial between different years of upgrades. So if you go further, is what I mean, if you go further down the chain, like 4 years back like this, you might see more substantial upgrades than some of the previous ones I was comparing. So let's go into YouTube. You'll see that was about the same. We'll go over here. And let's go into trending, 3, 2, go. You can see about the same scrolling. Not bad on either. And we'll go over here. How about over to music and gaming and movies? Scrolling down, pretty good there for both. Let's go into Prime Video, 3, 2, go. And you could see a little faster on the left. What if we click on to something? A little faster on the left, but I'll take the 16 Pro Max for slightly larger video experience. Let's go on Amazon, 3, 2, go. See, faster on the left. So now the iPhone 16 Pro Max pulling ahead a little bit. eBay. But I'm proud of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Doing very well here comparatively to the new one. Let's go into Best Buy. And this is when they started adding a little bit more zoom. They went 2.5 times and they went to 3 times and the 5 times. So this had a good amount of zoom on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Let's go to shop here. And how about we go to computers and tablets within this app? How about we go to laptops? And you'll see loading up some content in app. Not a substantial change there. Let's go into Jetpack Joyride. And we'll see how this casual game does. Game mode does enable. iPhone 16 Pro Max pulls way ahead of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So if you game, man, this is a definite upgrade if you want substantial gaming performance increases. That's going to be one of the biggest areas. And these are just casual games and it's launching faster. So let's go ahead and take it over to Rio Racing. And I had to do a quick cut because Rio Racing wasn't updated. So I had to update it for the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But you can see the iPhone 16 Pro Max jumped out in front of the iPhone 12 Pro Max by a good margin. And that's what you'll notice in these heavier games is a substantial increase in performance for the newer phone. Even when in the game, the sustained performance is much better for the iPhone 16 Pro Max, although both of these phones can still get a little bit warm to the touch when playing for extended sessions. Game mode does kill off the background processes to give you even better performance here in iOS 18. And you can see on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, even on some of these easy to load games, we are getting, hold on, that was bad. Now I gotta launch that a little bit and kind of do the same thing I was talking. Let's go into Free Fire. Even these more basic to load games can still launch quicker on this 4-year newer phone. So is it substantial? It depends how much you're playing. And the 12 Pro Max won that one, weirdly enough. It really just depends how much you're going to be playing the games and you're going to be rendering and doing stuff like that. That's really the big difference here. But it's not like neither can do. These are both flagship level phones, so both of them can still run pretty much everything on the App Store. It's just the 16 Pro Max will do it a little bit faster. You'll see PUBG is another example of this. And this is pulling out a good amount better than even it did over the 13 Pro Max. Didn't do too much over the 14 Pro Max and 15 Pro Max. But both of them did a really good job here loading PUBG. Let's go over here to start. And matching up is going to be basically finding the lobby. So that could be an unfair matchup. It's kind of just going to go to whichever one finds the matchup first. So let's go ahead and head up out of here and we'll go into speed test. And you'll see speed test net goes to the right. What the heck, iPhone 16 Pro Max? Let's go into iMovie. And that's going to go to the left. And how about Geekbench 6? That's to the right because this app hasn't been properly updated yet for the 16 Pro Max. And if you think these are my last speed tests, they're not. Once the 16 Pro Max has been out for a while, it gets a few updates. I'll do some second versions of some of these popular speed tests like episode 2 or an episode 3 down the line after this phone has gotten some proper updates. But you've seen in this app test that the 16 Pro Max was only pulling ahead by a little bit, some second or two in certain apps, and the 12 Pro Max on day-to-day use still pretty good. And that's mostly, I think, attributed to the fact that they had the 6 gigs of RAM all the way back on the 12 Pro Max. That's really helped this out go the distance. And this one's only going to go further with the 8 gigabytes of RAM that it has. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and take a look at the RAM management and see what we get here. And the 16 Pro Max has basically been flawless, the most smooth looking phone I've tried here with the going through the applications. It's very similar to last year's 15 Pro Max though, so that's not really a massive difference. And I have been seeing some articles that we've been getting some touch response issues on the 16 Pro Max, 16 Pros because of the thin bezels. I've heard that, but I actually haven't had that happen to me yet. And I've been using the heck out of these since I got them, so that hasn't been a problem for me, but I'm not saying that it's not a problem. I'm just saying it hasn't happened to me. And I don't think we're going to get a big issue here for the 12 Pro Max because, again, 6 gigabytes of RAM. The last time I seen iPhones really reloading stuff or giving me a little bit of an issue here was 4 gigs of RAM. I will say it generally looks slower going through these apps, but that doesn't mean that a ton of them are relaunching. So it still does a pretty fair job. Did Amazon relaunch? Nah, not really. Let's go into YouTube and we'll go into X. Some of the feeds are reloading. A little bit of a blink. So this definitely doesn't look as smooth in this area for sure. Weather looked like a reload. But it's still not bad considering this phone is 4 years old. So I'm still pretty impressed with the capabilities of the iPhone 12 Pro Max and reloading applications, holding things in the background. It still does a pretty good job considering it's 4 years old. And here is our final scores, and you could see 3144, over 1,000 points better on the single core for 16 Pro Max. And then you could see over 3,000 on the multi-core score. Also, this phone has turned the brightness down. I think it's overheating or something. All right, guys, so here we are, and you can see that we do have a 1744 on the right with 10 FPS, and this phone is already really hot, so I think it could probably do better if I tested this cold, but you know, I'm running them heavy. I want to see what they're capable of, and this one will get really toasty and throttle back a bit. But 3888 here, this is 23 FPS, and you'll see scoring better than 86% of devices, scoring better than 33% of devices. But we have to keep it in perspective that this phone is from 2020, so you know, you don't expect it to score better than 50% of the market when it's 4 years old. So it's still acceptable, usable, but this newer phone is just so much faster in gaming and graphics, as you can see there. And when checking web browsing, you shouldn't have a massive issue here. When web browsing, both of them should be pretty good. This is not a heavy task or anything demanding, and whether you're buying a new iPhone or searching the web for whatever, doing whatever you're doing, it's going to perform pretty well. Take it over here to yahoo.com, 3, 2, go. And you'll see, even when we load up these other ones, it's definitely going to be pretty good. So let's just load up some random articles. You can see no major issues. So you're not going to improve too much there. But again, the wider bezel should give you a little bit more content displayed. All right, we've been running these pretty hard here. Let's check the temperature on the 16 Pro Max. You could see running at about 107 at its hottest point. See if we could find something hotter. Nope, but about 107.2, you could see it on the bottom. That's about its hottest point. Let's go ahead and check the iPhone 12 Pro Max. You could see 110, 114, wow. That's why it definitely throttled back. It was getting way too toasty in there. But 114, that's several degrees hotter. Man, that's 7 degrees hotter than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So huge update in terms of keeping that phone cooler to the touch. I'd still like to get it down to, like, you know, at its hottest point, like 98 degrees. That would be beautiful, but we're not quite there. Anyway, wrapping it up here, the 16 Pro Max is going to be a visual upgrade for you. You get yourself titanium, capture button, bigger cameras, better zoom, longer battery life, bigger screen. There is a ton of upgrades over the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but you got to look beyond the surface. If you just look at them like, oh, they're just two big Max phones, they both have the same general design, then you're going to think you're not going to see them, but you got to look a little deeper. And you've seen that a lot of the stuff that's improved here is underneath the back of the phone. It's the processor, it's the RAM, it's the efficiency of the operating system. Now with this newer stuff, it's just going to run better, and that is the name of the game here between these two. Does it mean you have to upgrade now? No, the 12 Pro Max is fine for another year for casual use and even some heavier use. It will throttle back a bit sometimes if you get a little bit too heavy on it, but generally speaking, I think most people will be fine waiting it out for the 17 if you don't want to upgrade now. But if you do, it's a good time. There's a lot to be had here if you upgrade from this. So either way you go, you're going to be okay. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. Peace.